She posted, "Reminder, never say yes out of pity. Know your worth, queens." 1 hour after rejecting my proposal. 6 months later, she got a save-the-date invite with a note, "No pity needed, just respect." The bride's name? Her former roommate. The ring box didn't feel heavy in my pocket. It felt like a stone, dense with the weight of 5 years of my life. I'd spent a month's salary on it, just like the old traditions say you should. I had a whole speech planned out, a stupid, heartfelt monologue about how she made my world better. We were at the viewpoint overlooking the city, the same place we had our third date. It was, I thought, perfect. I got down on one knee. I opened the box. I started my stupid, heartfelt speech, and halfway through, Amanda put her hand on my shoulder and said, "Oh, honey. No, get up." Just like that. It wasn't a tearful, "I can't." It wasn't a gentle, "I'm not ready." It was the same tone you'd use to stop a dog from jumping on the furniture. I got up, my face burning, my throat closing up. The box was still open in my hand. She didn't even look at the ring. "I just don't think we're on the same path anymore," she said, looking out at the city lights, not at me. "I have goals. Big ones. This just isn't part of the plan." I didn't know what to say. We had talked about this. A house, a future. It had always been our plan. I stammered something about loving her, about how we could make any plan work together. She just shook her head, a little pitying smile on her face. "It's for the best," she said. "You'll see." She called her own ride home, leaving me standing there under the stars with an open ring box and a future that had just evaporated. I went home to our apartment, packed a bag in a daze, and went to a friend's place. I couldn't bear to be there. I sent her a text saying I'd get the rest of my stuff over the weekend. She replied with a single thumbs-up emoji. A 5-year relationship ended with a gesture that took 0 effort. The real gut punch came an hour later. I was scrolling through my phone, trying to numb my brain, when I saw her new post. It was a selfie of her, looking serene and empowered, with the city lights in the background, the same lights we had just stood under. The caption was what shattered me. It read, "Friendly reminder to all my girls out there. Never, ever say yes out of pity. Know your worth, queens." Pity. She hadn't just rejected me. She had seen my proposal, my heartfelt declaration of love, my offer of a shared life, as something so pathetic that accepting it would have been an act of charity. And then she announced it to the world. She framed her rejection not as a sad, personal moment between two people, but as a triumphant act of self-worth, with me cast as the pitiful obstacle she had bravely overcome. Every like, every "Yes, Queen" comment from her friends felt like a personal jab. I wasn't just heartbroken anymore. I was humiliated. The next few weeks were a blur of logistics and quiet fury. I had to go back to the apartment to pack up my life. Amanda was barely there, always out with the girls, or at some new networking event. Her presence lingered, though, in the little things she'd say. "I hope you land on your feet," she told me once, as if I were a recently fired intern. "This will be a good growth opportunity for you." She wasn't just breaking up with me. She was managing my exit from her life, as if I were a poor-performing asset. The only person who treated me like a human being was her roommate, Sarah. Sarah was the opposite of Amanda in almost every way. Where Amanda was loud, Sarah was quiet. Where Amanda lived her life through an Instagram filter, Sarah was practical and down to earth. She was a nurse, used to dealing with real problems, and had little patience for Amanda's manufactured dramas. She would be in the kitchen when I was packing boxes, offering me a bottle of water, or just a quiet, sympathetic look. She never pried, but I could tell she knew what was going on. One afternoon, while I was taking down some bookshelves, she came into the living room. "I saw her post," she said, her voice low. "It was a rotten thing to do." I just nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "For what it's worth," she continued, "a man who is willing to commit and love someone isn't pathetic. He's rare." She's an idiot for not seeing that. It was the first time someone had validated my side of the story. It felt like a lifeline. I thanked her, and we fell into a surprisingly easy conversation. She talked about the hospital, the long hours, the frustration of living with someone who thought a broken nail was a genuine crisis. I realized that, in the 5 years I dated Amanda, I had barely gotten to know the person who shared her space. My world had revolved so much around Amanda that I'd missed the quiet, kind woman who was always in the background. When I finally moved the last box out of that apartment, I felt a profound sense of relief. Sarah helped me with one of the heavier boxes, and as I was leaving, she gave me her number. "If you ever want to grab coffee and complain about the absurdity of the world, let me know," she said with a small smile. Meanwhile, Amanda was living her best life, or at least the version of it she curated online. There were posts about her journey of self-discovery, her unapologetic ambition, and lots of hashtags about being a boss babe. She went on a string of dates with men who looked impressive in photos, guys in expensive suits, guys on boats, guys who were founders of something vague and techy. Each post felt like a calculated performance designed to show me and the world how much she had upgraded. She was an expert at twisting the knife, all while maintaining a veneer of positive, inspirational nonsense. About a month after I moved out, Sarah called me. She sounded exhausted. She told me she was moving out too. She couldn't take Amanda's self-absorbed behavior anymore. The final straw had been when Amanda had a breakup anniversary party, celebrating 1 month of being free from our toxic, stagnant relationship. Inviting Sarah, who knew the truth, was a step too far. We met for that coffee. And then another. It turned out we had a lot in common beyond our mutual frustration with Amanda. We liked the same old movies, the same hiking trails, the same quiet, divey restaurants. Talking to Sarah was easy. There were no games, no performances. She was just real. Our friendship became a quiet anchor in the storm of my life. She never bad-mouthed Amanda excessively, but she listened when I needed to vent, and she provided a perspective that was refreshingly sane. The turning point came about 3 months to the breakup. I was still angry. I would find myself checking Amanda's social media, feeding my own resentment with every smug post she made. I told Sarah about it one evening, embarrassed by my own obsessive behavior. She listened patiently and then said something that hit me like a ton of bricks. "You're letting her win. Every minute you spend thinking about her, you're letting her live in your head for free. The best revenge isn't getting angry, it's being happy." I looked at her, really looked at her, across the small table of that coffee shop. The setting sun was catching the gold flecks in her brown eyes. Her smile was genuine. Her presence was calming, and in that moment, the storm in my head just stopped. She was right. My anger wasn't hurting Amanda. It was poisoning me. And the antidote was sitting right in front of me. My revenge plan wasn't born from a desire to destroy Amanda. It was born from a desire to build something better for myself. I realized I wasn't just enjoying my time with Sarah as a friend. My heart was healing, and it was starting to beat for her. "You're right," I said. "Let's talk about something else. Tell me about the last time you went hiking." That was the shift. I stopped checking Amanda's profiles. I started focusing on my own life. I asked Sarah on a proper date. And then another. Our relationship grew organically, built on a foundation of mutual respect and genuine affection. Being with Sarah was like breathing fresh air after being stuck in a stuffy, perfume-filled room for 5 years. She celebrated my successes without trying to take credit for them. She supported me on my bad days without a hint of pity. She respected me. It was that simple. 6 months after my world had fallen apart at that scenic viewpoint, I brought Sarah back to the same spot. This time, the ring box in my pocket didn't feel heavy. It felt light, full of hope. There was no big, prepared speech. I just looked into her eyes and told her that the last few months with her had been the happiest of my life. I told her I wanted to spend the rest of my life with someone who saw me for who I was. I told her I loved her. She said yes, her eyes filling with happy tears. She looked at the ring, a simple, elegant band that we had casually looked at in a shop window a month before, and her smile was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Now came the execution of a plan I hadn't even known I was forming. As we started planning the wedding, we had to make a guest list. Her name came up. "Amanda, we don't have to invite her," Sarah said immediately. "I don't want her anywhere near our day." "I know," I said, a slow, cold smile spreading across my face. "But she's going to get a save the date. I have an idea." I told Sarah my plan. She looked at me for a moment, and then a slow smile mirrored my own. She remembered the post. She remembered my humiliation. She understood. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was ours. It wasn't about being petty. It was about closing a chapter. It was about sending a message, not just to Amanda, but to ourselves, that we were in control of the narrative now. We designed a beautiful, classy save-the-date card. A lovely photo of me and Sarah, laughing on a hiking trail. The date, the location, all the standard information. We had a small batch of them printed. For Amanda's, I requested a special edition. I slipped her card into its envelope, but not before tucking in a small separate slip of cardstock. On it, in the same elegant font as the invitation, was a short, simple sentence. No pity needed, just respect. We mailed it. The feeling was incredible. It wasn't the angry hot fire of my initial fury. It was a cold, satisfying sense of justice. It was the feeling of a final, perfectly placed chess move. Checkmate. The fallout was more spectacular than I could have ever imagined. We didn't hear from Amanda directly at first. The news came in a tidal wave from mutual acquaintances. Apparently she received the card. She saw the photo of me and her former roommate, blissfully happy. She read the note, and she imploded. According to a friend of Sarah's, Amanda had a complete and utter meltdown. She threw the card across the room and went on a screaming tirade about how Sarah was a backstabbing snake and how I was a manipulative monster who had seduced her roommate just to get back at her. Her entire, unbothered queen persona dissolved in a puddle of pure, undiluted rage. She took to social media, of course. But this time her vague, inspirational posts were replaced by frantic, thinly veiled attacks. There were posts about snakes in the grass, and how some people build their happiness on the rubble of others. She wrote a long, rambling story about the importance of loyal sisterhood, and how some women betray the code. But it didn't work. The magic was gone. To everyone who knew the real story, she didn't look empowered. She looked pathetic. She looked exactly like the thing she had accused me of being. The pity she had claimed to feel for me was now being directed at her, and she couldn't stand it. Her carefully constructed brand was annihilated overnight. She was no longer the queen on the throne. She was the jester screaming in the courtyard. The final moment of closure came a week later. My phone buzzed late at night with a string of texts from a number I no longer had saved, but knew instantly. I can't believe you would do this to me. After everything we had, you use my roommate to get revenge? How sick are you? She's a backstabber and you're pathetic. You deserve each other. You were always so weak. I knew it. You couldn't handle me moving on, so you had to find a way to hurt me. You think this makes you look strong? It just proves you were never good enough for me. I read the texts without a flicker of emotion. The words that would have destroyed me 6 months ago were now completely powerless. They were just the desperate screeches of someone who had lost control. I didn't reply to the texts. Instead, I let her stew for an hour before I called her. She picked up on the first ring. "What do you want?" she spat. "Wanted to make a few things clear," I said, my voice calm and steady. "First, my relationship with Sarah has nothing to do with you. I fell in love with a kind, decent, and respectful woman. It's a shame you didn't get to know her better. Second, the note wasn't about revenge. It was a receipt, a reminder of a lesson you taught me." "What are you talking about?" she hissed. "You taught me to know my worth," I said, the words tasting like victory. "And my worth is more than being someone's object of pity. You put that on display for the world, Amanda. You defined our breakup that way. I just wanted to let you know that I took your advice. I found someone who doesn't pity me. She respects me, and I respect her. That's something you and your string of Instagram boyfriends will probably never understand." There was dead silence on the other end of the line. I could almost hear her brain short-circuiting, unable to process the situation. "Please don't come to the wedding," I said, my voice still quiet. "And please don't contact me or Sarah again. This conversation is the last one we will ever have." Before she could respond, I hung up and blocked her number. I deleted the texts. I turned to Sarah, who was sitting next to me on the couch, and I pulled her into a hug. The ghost was exorcised. The chapter was closed. My revenge was complete. Not because I had destroyed her, but because I had built a life so wonderful that she no longer had any part in it. And as I held my future wife in my arms, I didn't feel a single ounce of pity for the woman I had left behind. I didn't feel anything for her at all.